Head football coach Dave Dorn said it once, and I think he said it best. The NCAA, no clue at all.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and that competitive side of me is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. Happy Thursday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, what in the world is the NCAA doing? Of all the decisions that they have to make, do they have the time to possibly just get one of them right?
Well, I think that this one is a situation where the old saying is, men say, we wear the pants in the relationship. My wife just picks the color, the cut, who tailors them, and what type of material they're made out of. And I think that that's what the NCAA is doing here. They're trying to say, hey, we wear the pants, and we're going to tell you how you all can transfer and what the rules are surrounding NIL, when in reality, they're just reactively trying to catch up to what has already been decided in the courts. And in terms of the transfer portal in and of itself, the only thing that I will say that is good that comes out of the NCAA's latest ideas of, regulation and enforcement, I guess, would be the fact that schools can directly negotiate NIL with the players. Because I think that there were, obviously Tom Lavosi and company, this does not apply to them. NC State, we're good with it. There were definitely rogue third-party actors at multiple schools that were promising things to kids that were not going to materialize. So having an entire sector, or at least a few people whose entire job revolves around that negotiation process, that, hey, what does our NIL coffers currently look like and all that? What can we feasibly offer people that is directly connected to the university as opposed to a third party that you hope is in lockstep? It's truly a different situation. So, that's the only good thing I say will come out of this. All the rest, it's literally the NCAA, like, after you've already drove in the car to it's like they came home in the middle of a Project X party and said, wow, well, we're not going to allow you to throw a party bigger than 10,000 people. All right, see you later. Have fun, kid.
So this was the tweet that went out on Wednesday night from the Public Relations Department of the NCAA. The tweet reads, Council changes transfer rules, permits immediate eligibility for transfers who are academically eligible / in good standing at previous school and meet progress toward degree requirements at new school. Decision not final until meeting ends on Thursday, must be ratified by D1 board on Monday. In layman's terms, they have just completely opened the doors to full-blown free agency. By allowing unlimited transfers, who's to say you can't see now a mid-season transfer? It's just full-blown chaos. College sports and the transfer portal had already been trending toward this, but there was at least still a little bit of structure in the way that you can enter the transfer portal, the windows, this, that, and the other. This just feels like you're completely taking off any child lock you still currently have on this thing. And when you open Pandora's box, I believe you got to get ready for the consequences. This could get very ugly for college sports in a hurry. My initial reaction is I feel horrible for coaching staffs across the country. It's probably hard enough to have to reorganize a roster and then constantly stay on that roster to ensure that it stays together as long as it possibly can. These new changes from the NCAA, it makes all of their lives that much more difficult. It's just a full-blown game of musical chairs now. And trying to keep up with your roster and even think about a roster just 1 year out in advance, it feels seemingly impossible now. It just feels like utter chaos. And it feels like every move that the NCAA is making it is at the detriment of what we know and love in college sports.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this much. I'm not sure how much do the transfer windows still apply and exist. And many people are of the belief that they do. However, the way that this is worded is so vague, you could absolutely interpret it as, could I transfer midseason? Could I transfer before the bowl game? You know, so it's all types of stuff there where you're kind of asking yourself some questions about, what is this? What are we actually doing here? And again, it's just a situation where I wish that the NCAA at some point in time were proactive. I wish that the NCAA at some point in time had got out in front of this stuff and said, hey, this is how we need to do it. Because, you know, one thing that Donald and I have talked about a lot on Locked On ACC is the fact that we can tell from the revenue difference between football and everything else. Football is becoming a separate monster. Football is becoming something that ultimately will end up separate from everything else, because we see how football TV deals and money is driving realignment in a way that we now see Cal, Florida State, and Syracuse all in the same division. That's a real thing. That's a real thing that's happened here. So they're all in the same conference. So, you know, this is a situation where we are going to ultimately see it separate. But the question is, what safeguards will be in place on the back end of it? Like Dave Dorn said, no clue at all is very much so a thing, because guess what? If you're always just sweeping up behind everybody and saying, oh, well, now that you've broken something, let's try to fix it and put it back together, you're going to be in a much worse position than if you said, hey, we're going to put these rules in place so that you don't break our fine china, and we're going to see how that works out. But, you know, the NCAA is not exactly trotting out its best and its brightest these days.
That's my biggest thing is there feels like there's no safeguard here. And every decision is reactionary. They're not getting out ahead of this to keep control and make sense of all of this. They're playing consistently behind the 8 ball. And then you drop a big decision like this on a Wednesday evening, and all chaos is now due to break loose. I certainly hope that players are getting the best advice. When a decision like this one drops, you're going to see an influx of players more than likely jumping in the portal because they have no reason not to now. It's completely unlimited. They can go and look and try and play wherever they are now academically eligible, depending on what that looks like from school to school. And it's just going to make it that much harder for 18 to 21-year-olds to make the best possible decision for their own situations. Yeah. And that's a shame. That's a shame. One of the many unfortunate downsides to this is you're probably going to see a lot of kids jump in the portal and then get left behind. That's already happening. Not everybody that jumps in the portal ends up with a landing space. I feel like that's only going to get amplified after something like this drops. And it's insane. It is pure insanity. It's going to be much harder to keep track of your team. Player loyalty to a school is going to become increasingly rare. And it already feels so valuable nowadays in just year 3 or 4 of this transfer portal business. It's going to get increasingly rare to see a guy buy into a school and stay there for 2, 3, 4, however many years. That feels like it also might go completely out the window here. So buckle up, folks. That's really the best way I can put it. Buckle up, because who knows where this thing's headed.
Yeah, and one thing that I do want to say is this. It is a very new landscape of college sports and all that. But what I will say is this. I don't think it's worse. I just think it's different. I just think it's different from the standpoint of, you know, even right now, right? DJ Burns became beloved at NC State, and we were his third school.
Yeah.
DJ Horn, in his story, we were his third school. Casey Morcell and all what he meant, we were his second school, you know? And so I'm not one of those people that's going to sit here and say, oh, damn you, portal. Because in all fairness, the portal giveth and the portal taketh away, okay? And I will say this. When you look at the arc of how NC State athletics has been affected by the portal, if NC State football goes on to do what I think they will, and what Mark Packer also thinks they will, don't worry, we'll talk about that more tomorrow, in this upcoming season, we will have no choice but to acknowledge that NC State has been, in terms of how our program was changed by the portal, one of the most prolific beneficiaries of the portal. So I'm not going to sit here and say, woe is us at the portal when our coaches have been, they darn near been transfer benders the way that they've been coming in. No, that's crazy. Our coaches have been just masters of portal combat in terms of just figuring out ways to get the best guys for our teams and getting us championships through the portal. Coach Westmore, Coach Avent, Coach Keats, Dorn have all used the portal masterfully. And so I struggle with saying that the portal is ruining the game or that these new rules will be a detriment to the game when our coaches have Harlem Shake through the pressure of the portal like it's nothing.
Well, yeah, I don't think the portal's ruining the game. I think the people running the game are ruining the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the administrators are the reason that the Pac-12 no longer exists. It's the reason that Florida State and Clemson and the ACC are in court. Shout out to Swafford and getting his boy those contracts with Raycon, but we're not going to go there today. The administrators have always run this thing into the ground. That's nothing new. That's a tale as old as time.
But speaking of transfer portal, we have another target that NC State basketball is looking at. We're discussing this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is Yahoo Finance. Let's just get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you in financial freedom. Am I right? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in just one place. They are the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. You can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures that you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. That's yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination. yahoofinance.com. Middle portion of our Thursday show, now getting into some additional transfer portal news, I guess you could say, for NC State basketball. There has been another guard that has emerged for some attention from NC State basketball. I referenced him yesterday. A Louisville guard. He goes by the name of Mike James. No, not Mike Jones. Who? Mike James. This is Mike James. He's a sophomore guard at Louisville this year. He averaged 12.6 points a game, 5 boards a game, and an assist and a half on 39.6% shooting, 34% from the perimeter. He also shoots a good bit of free throws. He's very physical in getting into the lane, getting to the rack. He can do a lot of things on offense, and he really does feel like potentially that combo guard that NC State may be looking for.
Yeah, we've talked ad nauseum about how NC State needs a guard that can score right away. We've talked about DeLeon being a little bit of a project and maybe needing a little bit of time to develop into that scorer. And, if you're not getting Styles and or Conwell, really, if you're not getting Styles and Conwell right away, you're going to need another guard that can fill it up to some extent. And so, you're kind of sitting here looking around saying, who are the options? Who are the players that we can potentially pick up that could fill that Jarkel Joyner, DJ Horn role in that you have to carry a lot of scoring load right away, because with all due respect, I don't think that MOC would thrive in that role. I think he thrives in more of that floor general, keep everything under control, keep the pace of play going at a certain type of level thing, as opposed to like hey, I'm the guy, count on me, 15, 16, 20 a night. I'm that guy. I don't think he's that, or I don't think he'd be most effectively utilized as that. So we need somebody who can step in and do that, and Mike James could potentially be that guy.
Yeah, I think the emergence here of Mike James is fascinating for NC State, and we've talked a lot about Ryan Conwell. I really do feel like, I can't remember if I said this yesterday, the longer that range is on, it feels like potentially the less likely he is to land at State. He visited Ohio State. He's still going to go to Indiana and Purdue. we'll see how that shakes out. But nonetheless, we talked yesterday about Freddie DeLeon. He does seem to be a bit more of a project type player that could get here. I do see a lot of potential in him, but if you're Kevin Keatts, you want someone that can score now, that can play in the ACC now. And you're looking at some of these prospects. Mike James has just done that for 2 consecutive years. He's played in the ACC, and he can score now. If you were listening to the numbers that I read to you, and maybe you're like, well, that's not all that impressive. Think about what DJ Horn did at Arizona State before making the jump to NC State. The numbers are not too far off. And in fact, they're actually shockingly similar. And so Mike James is possibly the guy that if you get him into Keatts' system and you surround him with all the other talent that we're looking to bring in here to Raleigh, you could see a massive bump for Mike James. He could flourish in this system and kind of look like a brand new player. I think that Mike James would be a fascinating addition to this basketball team.
Yeah, and moreover than anything else, as Levi Watkins said before, patience. Wait. I get it. You know, everybody wants to see the portal thing fully settled out and that we get our guys right away and all that good stuff. Last year, it took us a while in the portal. How'd that work out for us? You know, like objectively speaking, this is not a group of coaches that I'm looking at and I'm saying you've earned no goodwill. I can't trust what you're going to do in the portal. I think if there is anything of all the criticisms of Keatts, some fair, some unfair, of all the criticisms of his staff, one of them that cannot be said, he does a bad job in the portal. One of them that cannot be argued, there is no metric by which you can say, hey, you know, it makes sense. You can't argue that he hasn't been, again, just a masterful worker in the portal. And so, you know, I trust him and his staff here as well. With whatever happens with Conwell and DeLeon and Styles and James and whoever else is on our radar, I trust this coaching staff to get us guys who fit the system, who will do what needs to be done so that we can raise some more banners around here in Raleigh, and this time finish it all. Go get the big deal. Go get the big rings in here.
And another thing that I'm noticing this time around in this portal cycle, the type of guard that Keatts and staff is targeting, they're all bigger in terms of guard play. Mike James is 6'5", DeLeon is 6'5", Styles is technically a forward, he's 6'6". Conwell, I think he was 6'4", 6'5" for a guard. Mm-hmm. So perhaps you're seeing maybe a little bit of a change in philosophy and what Keatts wants to roll out there. We all know he loves his guards and how important guard play is to his system, but maybe leveling up to more length in his guards, you could see immediate dividends from that. I mentioned that Mike James is very physical when he gets in the lane. He gets to the free throw line a good amount. That could pay immediate dividends for NC State. Like I said, we need a guy that can score now. We need a guy that can play in the ACC right now. There is no time to wait around. And would we still love to have DeLeon? Of course, but a project is still a project on some level. We need a proven guy that can get in the lane, can get you a bucket when you need a bucket, just like DJ Horn did. I see the vision here that Mike James could be the very next one to do it. Coming up next, I saw a blasphemous list of ACC basketball coaches being ranked. We got to discuss this after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is Monopoly Go. As I mentioned before, I have a competitive side. Let's be honest, we all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 million times with an M. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not on one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring in you big money. But here's the best part. You can do all this while messing with your friends. You can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly, but now you can also heist their vaults for their riches to put in your pocket. The leaderboards show you who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. Potentially could be you. You can also team up with your friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game, join your friends, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and on Google Play. Rounding out our Thursday show, I saw a very blasphemous list. It involves the now 18 ACC men's basketball coaches with now the addition of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. They ranked them, I suppose, entering the 2024-2025 season. There's no other stipulations on here, and based on this list, I truly have no idea how they were even arranged. Actually, the more I think about it, I know exactly how they were arranged. Well, I took the bait. We're going to talk about it. It's ridiculous. Here it is. Okay, for those of you listening to us, I'm going to read you this list 1 to 18. Feel free to scream into your phone/monitor when you hear something ridiculous. You won't have to wait for very long. Number 1, UVA, Tony Bennett. Number 2, UNC, Hubert Davis. Number 3, Duke, John Shire. Number 4, Jim Larinaga, Miami. Number 5, Stanford, Kyle Smith. Think about it. Okay. Number 6, Pat Kelsey, Louisville. Think about it. Number 7, Steve Forbes, Wake Forest. What are we doing here? Number 8, Micah Shrewsbury, Notre Dame. Respectfully, what is this? Number 9, Brad Brownell, Clemson. Okay. Number 10, Kevin Keats, NC State. Interesting. Number 11, Andy Enfield, SMU. He's had that job for 2.5 weeks. Okay. Number 12, Jeff Capel, Pitt. Number 13, Adrian Autry, Syracuse. Number 14, Virginia Tech, Mike Young. Number 15, Leonard Hamilton, Florida State. Number 16, Mark Madsden, Cal. Number 17, Damon Stoudemire, Georgia Tech. And number 18, Earl Grant, Boston College. Kenton, where would you like to start?
I don't get this because what is your criteria? Is it what have you done in the past?
That's what I'm saying.
Is because if it's what you've done in the past, in what world does Hubert Davis and John Shire end up that far in front of Kevin Keats? Last time I checked, I'll even give you Hubert Davis because you would say he's been to a national championship. Keats is not. What has John Shire done to demand that?
He has an ACC title, but that's it.
So does Keats.
You're right.
And last time I checked, he took over a program that was in an exponentially better place than where NC State was when Keats took over. Pat Kelsey, my brother in Christ, what are we? What is happening? And here's the biggest one that just blows my mind. And I like this brother. This is no disrespect to him. Micah Shrewsbury. Don't make me throw my headphones. Micah Shrewsbury. Come on. If we should be anything in this life, for real should be the first thing. And Micah being ranked ahead of Coach Keats is absolutely insane because, and I mean this from a very genuine standpoint, to say that Notre Dame was in a exponentially better spot when Shrewsbury took over than what Keats was. And I get it. I get the internal turmoil. I get that their head coach, Coach Bray, it was, does he stay? Does he go? Is he retiring? Are they firing? I understand all that. That still was a much better situation than, hey, your old coach, he's kind of fired, kind of not. And by the way, here's some infractions to take with you on your way out the door. Like, what are we doing, man? I don't understand it at all, but, I love it. In the words of one Kendrick Lamar, I love it when you count me out.
I have many gripes, but where all of them start are right there at number 5. Now, if you want to look at Kevin Keats and you see Tony Bennett, Hubert Davis, Jim Larinaga, and John Shire ahead of them, sure. To be honest with you, I really even wouldn't have much to say about it. I would understand that. Kyle Smith of Stanford being 5 spots ahead of Kevin Keats is blasphemous. They have never played a single game in the ACC. So that goes back to what kind of criteria are we talking here? Are we talking past accomplishments? Okay, Stanford.
I was about to say, what has Kyle Smith done?
Exactly. Okay, next. Pat Kelsey from Louisville. I think Pat Kelsey's a really good coach, and I think he will succeed at Louisville. With that being said, what does he have over Kevin Keats currently? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
He's got aura.
And apparently he might not have NIL either. Next.
Yeesh.
Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. Where does all of the love come from for Steve Forbes? I like Steve Forbes. I think he's a very entertaining human. I find him fascinating in his post-game interviews and the way he tries to get Wake fans riled up. What does he have over Kevin Keatts? Here, I'll tell you, nothing. He has nothing over Kevin Keatts. Micah Shrewsbury. Kenton kind of already hit the nail on the head here. What are we doing? What are we doing? Brad Brownell, who actually was kind of in a similar spot to Kevin Keatts before this postseason run for both of these schools. I would understand him being close to Keatts in this list, but the two of them being at 9 and 10 is crazy. It is bananas. It's absolutely bananas. The other 8 schools below Keatts, it's not that big of a deal, although they're also wildly arranged down there. But nonetheless, this is an insane list. And I know the purpose of formulating a list like this is to get this type of reaction from a person like me. So congratulations to College Basketball Report. You got me. But come on, man. We have to be much more logical when we're putting these types of things together. There is no planet in which Kevin Keatts is 10th in the ACC, let alone behind some of these schools that have nothing to show for it and have just entered themselves into the ACC. It makes zero sense. Come on, do better. We got to do better.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Thank God that these lists don't actually affect where teams end up at, because I remember every list from the Sweet 16 forward in terms of power rankings and who were the best and worst teams. NC State was 16 out of 16 teams for the Sweet 16. We were 8 out of 8 teams for the Elite 8. We were 4 out of teams for the Final Four. Thank God you still got to go out there and put the ball in the rim. Thank God you still got to go out there and do some rebounding, do some boxing out, do some screening, do some rolling, do some pop. Thank God you got to do all those things.
As they say, this is why they play the games on the court and not on paper, or in this case, on Twitter. This is the exact reason because, That'll do it for us here on Thursday. As always, thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop your comments in the comment box. Fill these comment boxes with how blasphemous it is that Kevin Keatts is 10th on that list. He's not on 10th. We all know he's not 10th. Come on. Tell us what you think about the possibility of adding Louisville guard Mike James to NC State relatively soon. I've been led to believe that we may see some developments here in the next, maybe 48 hours. Don't call me a liar. That's just what I've heard. And tell us what you think about the NCAA continuing to have no clue. Every single chance they get, they said, no clues for us, please. We're good. That'll do it for us here on Friday. If you have not already, mash that subscribe button on your way out the door. We will see you all tomorrow. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.